Here to talk about all of that, we're joined by Behnam Ben Taleblu. He's a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. Welcome, Behnam. Good to see you. I want to get your reaction, first of all, to the comments from the Iranian government about the fire at Bandar Abbas. They say it was negligence. What do you make of that?
Thanks, Laura. Always great to be with you. Listen, in this case, if we're seeing echoes of what happened with the Beirut port, bringing in this highly combustible chemical, where on the Iranian side it was a precursor for solid propellant fuel, if that specific chemical was behind these fires, which, as you saw, have gotten significantly out of control, up to 40 deaths, over 750 injuries, then the regime really does need to be blamed for the negligence. But that negligence has long been on display for quite some time now, with respect to the economy, with respect to the environment, with respect to the political and social situation in the country. This is really the latest straw. And I would kind of keep your eyes on the Iranian streets and on Iranian social media as to how the population makes sense of the claim by the regime that this was an accident.
All right. Meanwhile, we are heading into a fourth round of nuclear talks. Israelis reportedly, apparently increasingly frustrated about the way that process is going. We've just heard the defense minister warn that Israel will go it alone in order to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Do you think the Americans are leaving it to Israel now?
No, I think the U.S. is leaving it to itself. You know, the U.S. is engaging in a bilateral negotiation with the Islamic Republic of Iran to try to prevent an Iranian nuclear weapon. The million-dollar question still remains: what framework is Washington bringing to bear to achieve that? Is this the limited kind of arms control framework like we saw with respect to the JCPOA? That's not what most of the Trump administration's rhetoric is hinting at. Most of the administration's rhetoric seems to be much more in line with what the prime minister has been saying. Again, this is born of a shared interest. I would say not more, not less. But conversely, the Iranians are staying at the table, and they may think the longer Washington is talking, the less likely Israel will be shooting. And also, if you take into account the appreciation of the Iranian rial, nearly 20% relative to the U.S. dollar since these talks began, that too is not insignificant. So, I'm more interested in what Tehran is gaining from staying at the table before even a deal is achieved.
Well, do you think Iran is just running down the clock as it has done so many times before?
I think it understands that it has a limited amount of time, and therefore it has to sweeten the deal for the Trump administration, but the policy of playing for time remains. Most importantly, though, the policy of playing for time remains with respect to the Europeans, because the longer we can keep the semblance of talks, or the semblance of talks moving in a positive direction goes on, the more it can create coordination problems between Washington and its transatlantic partners, particularly the E3, with whom the snapback mechanism, which expires this October at the UN, rests.
All right. Behnam Ben Taleblu at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. We appreciate it. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.